Micro SMEs under the spotlight in latest APEC Meet. New gold and copper mine wants PNG investors. And Tedi landowners want overdue benefits.
This is National MTV News with Aiabba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Monday's news. Discussions on supporting the micro, small to medium enterprises began today as part of the latest APEC meetings hosted by the APEC Business Advisory Council. The APEC MSME and Innovation Summit began this morning with National Planning Minister Richard Maru addressing the opening session. He described the MSME sector as the future of Papua New Guinea's economy. The APEC MSME and Innovation Summit began this morning with representatives from a cross-section of businesses from across APEC economies in attendance. In addressing the opening session, Chair of the MSME Summit, Stan Joyce, spoke of the need for the Papua New Guinea government to commit to providing an environment for MSMEs to flourish. According to Mr. Joyce, among immediate needs is for more reliable telecommunication services in the country, something which has been lacking for many years.
There is so much talk about the development of the MSME economies in APEC. I think, though, it's time for less talk and more action. And we trust that the exposure given to PNG will see a transition of this investment into a transformation of policy and programs that will stimulate economic growth in the Papua New Guinea host economy.
Representing the Prime Minister, National Planning Minister Richard Maru, whilst acknowledging the challenges, also highlighted some achievements from the last term of government, among them a comprehensive SME policy that now guides the country's ambitions in creating 500,000 SMEs by the year 2030.
And we are willing to make the reforms that we need to make. Be it investment or be it legislation, we will do that. Let there be no doubt about that. The MSME sector is our future, and we know that. We recognize that, and we are going to work with the private sector, all our partners, all foreign investors, to help grow that sector.
Minister Maru further added that the focus on MSMEs would continue through the third medium-term development plan, which is expected to be launched soon.
We want to have a credit guarantee corporation next year. We're looking at more district markets for our mothers in the villages. We are revising our policy, and we'll work hard to achieve our target of having 500,000 SMEs by the year 2030.
The APEC MSME and Innovation Summit continues tomorrow. A land investigation report by the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Unit has cleared New Island Governor Sir Julius Chan of any illegal acquisition of land in Kavieng. This came after questions were asked in the Provincial Assembly. The land investigation covered all national political leaders, including members for Kavieng and Namatanai. The investigation determined that Governor Sir Julius Chan acquired 2 properties following proper legal procedure. Sir Julius acquired the land after the Lands Board considered his present status, security and health reasons to allocate title to the 2 portions of land located close to the Assembly and administrative offices so that he could easily move back and forth to work within a short distance. This was approved by the Lands Department some 6 years ago. More than 10 shareholder certificates were awarded to shareholders of a new gold and copper mine project along the borders of East Sepik and Enga provinces. Aiabba Mineral PNG Limited Managing Director Moses Mondoa is extending an open invitation for more Papua New Guineans to invest. Mondoa wants to see locals owning and managing mining companies in Papua New Guinea.
Yaba Minerals PNG Limited is a new gold and copper mine project situated 80 km east of the Frida River and 150 km northwest of the Kagamuga International Airport. It is in its early stages of becoming a fully operated mine. It is currently owned by the 12 clans of the Malaumanda community bordering Enga and East Sepik.
It is located on the Ninguni gold copper belt. We are about 80 kilometers east of Freda River.
Early explorations last year have found gold and copper deposits Mondoa says it has the potential for exploration of major deposits. He is extending his invitation for nationals to invest in the company as shareholders during the seed capital period.
One of our focus is we would like to see a lot of Papua New Guineans invest in this company. By investing in the company as a shareholder, you become part of a major resource development in the country.
They are focusing on developing or having a 5-year production once they are listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
The commander of Baisu Jail in Western Highlands Province, Timpi Kauga, is urging the provincial governors of the 4 neighbouring Highlands provinces to address law and order problems in their own provinces. The neighbouring provinces are Enga, Hela, Southern Highlands and Jiwaka. Kauga said Baisu Jail is overcrowded as it has been housing prisoners from these provinces as well.
Prison overcrowding is becoming a norm in many correctional institutions in the country. Baisu Jail is no exception. About 80% of prisoners and remandees at Baisu are from Enga province. Jail Commander Timbi Kauga says Enga and Jiwaka do not have a provincial jail and all its remandees and prisoners are transferred to Mount Hagen. The overcrowding is already impacting the jail's water supply capacity, threatening the lives of the prisoners.
Governors all political head along all province all must take responsibility. All must give priority to law and order. Law and order is a very, very important sector where law and order in place, investments become inside, business become inside. All man marry the community all must have good.
Both overcrowding and the country's economy not generating enough revenue has caused the prisoners to run out of food, cooking and eating utensils and blankets. Last Friday, the Restoration Justice Initiative from Pogora Gold Mine donated eating utensils, blankets, volleyball balls and nets to Baisu prisoners.
Churches. So where my partner try creating awareness law and order, promoting or linking up with other external NGO groups or other agencies, government agencies, where we can keep up him, good, maintaining law and order.
Baisu prison is currently putting a halt to receiving new prisoners from outside centers. It is already holding more than 300 prisoners, which is way beyond its capacity. Most of the prisoners are illegal miners from Pogera. The recent donation by the Restoration Justice Initiative is the first of its kind, but PJV will continue to help Baisu Jail rehabilitate its prisoners.
And then we will try to help them making something come up. So one of the last thing we talk to we will start to help them solve something. So first at the second visit I'm inviting you to come along. So
Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Villagers near Goroka town are taking the initiative in assisting PNG Power to disconnect illegal connections within their council ward. Disconnections began on September the 4th and will continue into other neighbouring villages until illegal connections are identified and removed. This is the first time communities have taken the initiative to remove illegal connections in their areas, unlike the past, where PNG Power engaged the police officers during disconnection exercises in centres around the country. A total of 15 illegal connections so far have been identified and disconnected. You're watching National EMTV News this Monday. Still ahead, landowner groups in the Tedi area claim they have not seen any benefits since the mine began. That story and more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. With a registered incorporated land group, Mount Fubilan landowners, where the Tedi open cut mine is located, are calling on for landowner benefits from Tedi and the government. The Kimka Sepian ILG has villages situated around the foot of Mount Fubilan and say they have not seen tangible development since the opening of Tedi in 1984.
The Kimka Sepian land group say they are the principal landowners of Tedi mine pit at Mount Fubilan. The ILG covers 6 mine impact villages. They say they have seen no tangible development even though Tedi has made billions from the mine.
Since how many years me mine and operate na kam, me no makes one benefit in that of Tedi. Man since me operate. So until now me action file certificate. And that man me recognize me. And that was me need him help law. National government help him. Look law.
They also want environmental damages claims, as they claim most rivers and hunting and gardening areas are damaged or taken by the mine.
List area, I'm around him starting to long social mapping where I'm identifying this law properties now this plan. Plenty people bakara been come up. Now I'm starting to law this la Mount Fubilen. Now I'm affecting all the water you go down fly.
Meanwhile, the landowner group has had numerous visits and correspondence with the Fly Provincial Government, MRA, Mineral Policy and Geohazard, and OTML, but their calls have fell on deaf ears. Adelaide Siraks Kari, National, MTV News.
Bosconians from all Salesian schools came together over the weekend for the first ever One Talk Bosco celebrations. The celebrations were organized by the Salesian Commission on Youth Ministry. The overnight event brought together 200 youth leaders and animators from Don Bosco R.I. Miri Secondary School in Kerma, Don Bosco Technical School Gabutu, Don Bosco Technological Institute and Caritas Technical Secondary School in Port Moresby. The participants attended workshops facilitated by different members of the Salesian family. The youth ministers and animators also shared the work they did to help further the mission of St. John Bosco. Games, prayer and fellowship activities were all part of the One Talk Bosco experience to make sure that aside from formation, Bosconia shared experiences of the other stages of group life. This activity set the ball rolling for more provincial gatherings for the Salesian youth of Papua New Guinea as well as in the Solomon Islands. The Papua New Guinea Trade Union Congress today announced its new members of the executive. The election of the new office bearers were conducted by the Electoral Commission and supervised by the Industrial Registrar. The newly appointed General Secretary, Clemens Kanau, said the new executive board has made a commitment to reach out to centres outside of Port Moresby.
Former General Secretary John Pasca is the newly appointed president of the PNG Trade Union Congress. The new executives have representatives from all sectors of the economy. The newly appointed vice presidents are Loa Tambua, a representative of the law and justice sector, Martin Alibob from the fisheries sector, Dimasi Ise from the agriculture sector, and Edward Gisa from the energy and extractive sector. Frederick Kebua, president of Nesses Association, is the newly appointed executive secretary, and Anton Sekum of Commercial Workers Union is the new treasurer. General Secretary Clemens Kanau said this is the first time the management board has representative from the sustainable sector of our economy.
So as you can see, we are eager. You have a new look of executive. Personally, I'm excited because the executive that we have today is widely represented within the sectors of all the workforce in the country. We have included public service sector. Both president of the nurses and police are from the public sector, public service sector, and also private sector workforce. In president of the fisheries, the fisheries sector, and president representing the agriculture sector.
Mr. John Pasca said he is happy to take up his new role as the president for the Trade Union Congress. He has served as the General Secretary for the Trade Union Congress for 26 years before taking up this new role, and he was the longest serving General Secretary.
And I want to appeal to all the workers and all the unions in Papua New Guinea to give their full support to the new General Secretary and also the full executive that is here today. We lose nothing, absolutely nothing by my exit from the General Secretary's position. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, I think we gain moving forward. The full confidence is here. The legitimacy of the executives has been restored, barring questions to the contrary that have plagued us over the last couple of years.
Newly appointed Vice President and representative from the law and justice sector, Loa Tambua, said it is time to put aside in-house politics and work together to fight that common enemy.
Let us work together with our new president, with our new general secretary, and the rest of us. Let's get back our country. Let's get back what we have worked for, that fair share. And that is my appeal. Forget about what has happened. It happened, up. We are leaders. Let's just walk out with it, start something new, and save our country and our people.
Rayon Lakingu, National MTV News.
Patrick Torre Jr. from Hula in Central Province was the proud recipient of the Stop and Shop Winner Boat promotion drawn today in Port Moresby. The promotion was a way for Stop and Shop to reward its loyal customers. Those who spent 40 kina or more entered the draw to win. Patrick was phoned over by Stop and Shop marketing manager Regina Narakobi after being announced the winner. In the promotion, he drove over to Stop and Shop Central Waigani with his wife Sonia and 2 kids Graham and Malcolm to receive the keys to his new boat and merchandise to go along with his prize. This is Monday's news. We take a look at stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to Monday's news. Turning overseas now, a right-wing party is set to become a bigger political force in Sweden, one of the world's most liberal countries. The far-right movement made major gains in elections across Europe. Sweden Democrats are celebrating their best result ever.
Well, the preliminary count is finally in, and we're at the watch party of the Social Democrats. This is the party that has dominated Swedish politics for decades. They managed to stay on top, but still had the worst result they've had in nearly a century. Here's how Prime Minister and party leader Stefan Löfven explained it.
We wanted to see a better result. There's no doubt about that. But despite this, the voters have made the Social Democrats the biggest party.
Now, the insurgent far-right party, the Sweden Democrats, came in third. They weren't quite able to oust the center-right moderates as the largest opposition party. But it is certainly enough, as the Sweden Democrats leader Jimmie Åkesson told supporters, it is enough to drive their No More Immigrants agenda.
We have nothing more to give but Sweden, friends. We are not satisfied. We are not satisfied. We see that we are this election's winner, but now we enter a new mandate period, and now we are going to get influence over Swedish politics for real.
Now, the Sweden Democrats campaigned hard on anti-immigrant issues, rising crime rates in immigrant neighborhoods, and an overburdened welfare system. That's how the Sweden Democrats painted it. Now, they were able to score a number of votes. However, the majority of voters still voted against Sweden Democrats' anti-immigration policy. It did, however, polarize the country. Neither the left nor the right were able to form any sort of majority bloc in parliament, and that leaves voters wondering where the country is headed to next.
More than 800 people were arrested in renewed protests on Sunday that swept across Russia. That's according to a monitoring group that said some 350 of the arrests happened in St. Petersburg alone. Russians rallied in dozens of cities over proposed pension reforms.
Part of the nationwide protests being held in Russia to oppose the reform of the pension system in this country. The key issue is the retirement age and the plans by the Russian government to push that back to 65 for men and to 60 for women. It is angering people, not just among ordinary Putin critics, but among the general population, ordinary Russian workers who normally support the government across this country. At 59, these should have been Yevgeny Pankov's last few months of work. After a lifetime of back-breaking labour, fetching and carrying in the construction industry. I really feel my age, he complains, and my joints hurt, especially in the morning. But Yevgeny's dream of taking it easy has now been shattered. The Russian government's decision to raise pension ages from 60 to 65 for men means his retirement has to be put back.
particularly galling in a country where average male life expectancy is just 67.
I'm not just upset, I'm outraged. Now I'll be forced to work even longer, depriving my loved ones, my grandchildren of my attention.
Yevgeny here is just one of the millions of Russians who have been adversely affected by these controversial pension reforms. In fact, the issue has united young and old in opposition across the country, raising concerns in the Kremlin that the plight of ordinary workers could actually undermine the popularity of the country's president.
Amid nationwide protests and plunging approval ratings, Vladimir Putin made a televised address to soften the reforms, specifically for women, but also to insist that they must go ahead.
In the long term, if we hesitate now, it could threaten stability in society and hence national security.
It's not going down well with those affected most.
The government says, and Putin says, that they have no choice. They don't have enough money to pay the pensions unless they reform the system. Do you understand that? Do you believe the government when they tell you that?
No, I do not believe it. Comparing the incomes of high-ranked officials, they have simply unimaginable salaries. I do not believe that there is no money. It's a lie.
For many Russians, the pension issue has further undermined their trust in the Kremlin and its leader.
Well, there you have it. That's the nub of the issue, a real breakdown in trust between the country's leadership and its people. The big question, of course, is whether these protests across the country are going to gather momentum and pose a serious challenge to the Russian leadership and to Vladimir Putin himself. At this point, we're not at that stage, but certainly we're watching it very closely, as are the Russian authorities.
To the US, and it was round 2 of the presidential battle for the House of Representatives yesterday. Former President Barack Obama kept the political punches coming as he spoke at a rally in Southern California.
Former President Barack Obama laid out the stakes as Democrats try to retake the House in the midterm elections.
If we don't step up, things can get worse. In 2 months, we have a chance to restore some sanity in our politics.
He campaigned Saturday for 7 California Democrats who he hopes will be part of a blue wave this November.
All across the country, you can feel the energy. You can feel people saying, oh, enough is enough.
But President Trump mocked Obama's reemergence in an interview on Friday.
I dozed off watching him. I've always sort of dozed off watching him. He's trying to make a comeback because the Democrats are really in shambles.
As the president points to dysfunction within the Democratic Party, a recent New York Times op-ed paints a picture of chaos in the White House. More than 24 officials have denied penning the anonymous opinion piece as the president continues to seek out its author. Aboard Air Force One on Friday, Mr. Trump urged Attorney General Jeff Sessions to investigate.
Jeff should be investigating who the author of that piece was, because I really believe it's national security.
Even suggesting that the op-ed could be treasonous, a claim some of the president's own political allies have dismissed.
No, it's not treason under the law. It's disloyalty. It is cowardly.
Asked if the Department of Justice has launched a formal investigation into the anonymous op-ed author, the White House referred us to the president's Air Force One remarks. And the DOJ refuses to comment on any potential investigations.
North Korea used a huge military parade to send a poignant message to Western nations. Amid fears of talks stalling on denuclearization, the regime left out a key component of its 70th anniversary.
It's a disciplined display meant to show devotion and military might. But on this occasion, a key piece of North Korea's hardware was missing. Of course, there was the usual fervour from Kim Jong-un's foot soldiers. But the most advanced ballistic missiles were kept out of sight. It seems Kim Jong-un has decided not to provoke the United States at this sensitive time. Instead, he took the hand of China's envoy, showing the world he has powerful friends. The BBC was not invited to Pyongyang, but we did speak to North Korean defectors who took part in past events.
It really was a painful experience. The people suffered. This was just days and days of pain and suffering.
It can take up to 6 months to prepare. 10 hours of rehearsals a day with very little food. The goose stepping in particular is difficult to master, especially while turning your head towards the dear leader.
You have to lift up the back leg at the same time your front leg hits the ground. This is very difficult. If you do this for 6 months, you can lose over 5 kilograms.
Complaining is not an option.
Absolutely not. As soon as you did it, it would be saying, "Kill me."
Away from the waving Pyongyang elite, there are fears North Korea is on the verge of a food crisis as crops fail after a heat wave. The Kim family show only what they want the world to see. Just like the missiles, North Korea has so much hidden from view. And until that changes, the international community may find it difficult to trust.
To Australia now, and police in Perth have charged a 24-year-old man after 5 members of a family were found dead in their home. Police found a horrific scene: a mother, her 3 young children and their grandmother. The crimes have left Australia reeling, and it's the state's 3rd mass killing in just 4 months.
In suburban Perth, a now haunting sight. Toys for 3 young children who'll never play with them again. This unremarkable house in a quiet neighbourhood, now the scene of a tragedy that's shaken Australia. Mum Mara Quinn found dead, along with her twin 2-year-old girls Alice and Beatrix, her 3-year-old daughter Charlotte, and her own mother Beverly.
Lovely family, small family, kept to themselves, very, very quiet. We've been living next door to them now for some time, and they've always been lovely, always there for some help and support whenever you needed it, just very neighbourly.
Police making the horrific discovery after a man went to a regional police station. Late this afternoon, a 24-year-old man was charged with 5 counts of murder.
It's tragic not only for the family and the friends, it's tragic for those first responders who are forced to attend such scenes, and it does send a ripple through the community of Western Australia.
It's understood 47-year-old Ms Quinn lived in the home with her children and her partner.
He had his truck at the front all the time, his car, ute, doing all his landscaping, and just seemed quite a normal another home in the suburbs.
It's the 3rd apparent mass killing in Western Australia in the last 4 months. In May, 7 family members were found dead near the tourist town of Margaret River, in Australia's worst mass shooting in more than 20 years. And in July, New Zealand mother Michelle Peterson was murdered in her Perth home, along with 2 of her children, who were 8 and 15 years old. That was only 30 minutes from the scene of this latest tragedy, where police arrived to find the TV still on.
We'd commented on the fact that we hadn't heard anybody moving in the house, and then we came home from lunch and the place was cordoned off.
Officers now working night and day to try to find out why such horror visited a seemingly happy family home.
To take us into Trukai sports, who's at fault? That's a big question over the tennis tantrum, dividing opinion and sparking plenty of vigorous debate across the world. Serena Williams accused the umpire of being sexist during her extraordinary meltdown at the US Open.
A day after the US Open final, it was the loser, not the winner, grabbing all the attention. The greatest women's tennis player ever, slapped with 3 code of conduct violations, threw a human rights violation back at the umpire Carlos Ramos, accusing him of sexism. Her stance winning support from former greats. But one of our best players, Belinda Cordwell, says Williams' on-court punishment wasn't sexist.
I was disappointed that she came out with the sexism comment because I think that this is not what this issue is about.
Williams arguing that men get away with a lot worse. At the same tournament, Australian tennis bad boy Nick Kyrgios got a pep talk rather than a penalty from the umpire. But Williams umpire Carlos Ramos is one of the best, known to be a stickler for the rules. At Wimbledon, when top men's player Novak Djokovic threw his racket, he was penalised. Belinda Cordwell says umpires are abused by men and women. The problem is, rules aren't policed consistently.
In some ways the players are indulged because, let's face it, the tournaments want the players to come and play.
Serena Williams does have a track record of abusing match officials. At the 2009 US Open, she took on the umpire after being penalised a point. 2 years earlier, she threatened to shove a ball down the throat of a line umpire.
I didn't say I would kill you. Are you serious?
And in Auckland 2 years ago, she complained about the wind when she lost.
Fundamentally, Serena, I think, is used to getting her own way.
Yes, Serena Williams has been working hard coming back after having a baby. But yesterday, Belinda Cordwell says she got into an argument she could never win.
She just happened to be the victim of an umpire who had decided that enough was enough.
Maybe sometimes a bad day at the office is just that.
And on that note, we go for a break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football. Papua New Guinea lost their first OFC Under-16 match to host Solomon Islands yesterday. The young couples lost 5-0 at Lawson Tama Stadium in the Solomon Islands.
The match was played in front of an expected huge crowd at the Lawson Tama Stadium in Honiara. Papua New Guinea struggled to control the ball under the slippery surface conditions. Solomon Islands had a few scoring opportunities through captain Charles Mani, but failed to score. The breakthrough for Solomon Islands still arrived pretty early on, as Rafael Le'ai scored the opening goal of the tournament for Solomon Islands and his first as an international footballer. Minutes later, Stuart Saru was brought down in the box after a good run, and Le'ai stepped up to convert from the spot. The Solomon Islands dual international completed his hat-trick to hand the hosts a 3-0 lead at half-time. Papua New Guinea had some good opportunities in the second half to score, but good defending from Leon Kofana and Javin Wai kept them at bay. Despite the downpour in the later stages of the second half, Chris Satu and Le'ai managed to score as the hosts walked away with a 5-0 win over their Melanesian neighbours. Elijah Vet, National MTV Sports.
To hockey, and the PNG Hockey Federation is days away from hosting its national championships here in Port Moresby. Other centres are expected to travel in the next few days for the tournament. The event will also be used to identify potential players for the hockey squad for next year's Pacific Games.
With less than a week to the national championships, 4 centres are expected to attend the event. And the individual who's arrived earlier for the tournament from Lae is Andrew Roama to try out the new turf.
I'm from Lae. I'm playing with Lae, but I came a bit earlier here, so just to get in touch with the turf and so my preparation for the championships next week. So that's why I'm playing with the Masters.
He says the Nationals will definitely be a challenge, as other centres will need to familiarise their feet on the turf.
It's national championships for Port Moresby. Port Moresby is hosting, and we have other centres flying in as well. Lae, East and West New Britain, and I think Madang. So.
He says Team Lae will be games ready come game day.
With Lae, we prepared pretty well. I was the only player that came across, so yeah, I've been playing, keeping myself fit with this tournament as well, so yeah, pretty confident with the boys.
The event will also be used as part of selection for upcoming international fixtures. Godwin Eki, National MTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere, we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To tennis now, and Novak Djokovic has completed a remarkable comeback to the sport this year. He beat his opponent in a tough 3 sets to continue his dominance in Wimbledon.
Season of struggle has turned into one of major success for Novak Djokovic.
It's the summer of Novak Djokovic. His time to dominate, create milestones, chase records, build a resume among the best ever.
Djokovic needing more than 3 hours just for his straight sets win over Juan Martín del Potro, drawing level with Pete Sampras on 14 for Grand Slam wins in the process, equal third on the all-time list.
I was hoping he's going to be here tonight, but he's not, so I want to say, Pete, I love you. You're my idol.
While the scoreboard suggests it was easy for the Serb, it really was anything but. The second set alone taking 95 minutes. Del Potro unable to capitalise on 2 chances to go 5-3 up, and once Djokovic outlasted the Argentine in a tiebreak, the result appeared inevitable.
Too solid, too strong.
Despite a continuous cacophony from Del Potro's fan base, Djokovic marched on, adding the US Open to that of Wimbledon for back-to-back Grand Slam crowns.
Because you better believe this guy's going to win a few more.
It's quite the turnaround. Earlier this year, Djokovic struggled after elbow surgery, dropping outside the top 20 in the rankings.
I don't want to think about that level again, because I feel like I'm on a whole new level.
For Del Potro, his own comeback from injury fell 1 step short, left in tears after being unable to add to his only major title in New York in 2009.
To be honest, I was crying till now.
No tears for the champion though. Djokovic overtaking Roger Federer as the biggest on-court earner in the history of the game with $182 million.
To cricket, and it's the predicament of holding one player back to benefit the sport or to prioritise individual player development. That's the situation with White Fern Katie Perkins finds herself in with Auckland Cricket. As the 30-year-old comes to the tail end of her career, she's wanting to do whatever it takes to be the best, but she's finding a roadblock in her way.
Katie Perkins is a big hitter, but she's wanting to hit even harder.
At this stage in my career, I want to be the best I can be, and the men's game provides that for me.
The White Ferns batter's been playing in the women's club competition for 15 years and has been trying for many seasons to get full dispensation to compete in the men's grade.
Auckland Cricket, to their credit, didn't say blanket no, but the constraints they put around it meant that it was pretty much no opportunity.
When there is Women's Premier Cricket scheduled, she has to play that competition. When there is no Women's Premier Cricket on that weekend, she is able to play men's cricket at whatever level.
That works out to be about 2 weekends in the season. Auckland Cricket in a difficult situation, one of the only regions with a women's comp and on a quest to developing the game.
My White Ferns teammates who live in the regions are currently playing men's cricket because that's all that's available.
Have you ever thought about going to the regions?
I have thought about it as I've gone through this process, but I guess I'm a loyal person and my loyalty is with Auckland.
From an organisational point of view, and how do we get our Women's Premier competition as strong as it can be, and having Katie as part of that is a really crucial part of how we develop and build the strength in that competition.
The 30-year-old says while she's at her peak, going out with a bang would be even better.
It's hard not to get excited about this next young man's story. He has the talent and most certainly the pedigree, and also has his feet firmly on the ground. Yesterday afternoon, his team won a national title in Auckland. This is the story of Nico Jones.
It'll go down as one of the most remarkable schoolboy seasons. From 4th in Auckland to 1st in the country, with rugby royalty at the centre of it all. But while St Peter's captain Nico Jones has inherited a famous name, he definitely lives up to it.
That gets away from the first tackler, offloads the ball, brilliant play, PJ Tonga to the line, it's a try!
After 18 years, the Barbarians and Moaska Cups are St. Peter's once again, and they had 7 hours to soak it all in on the bus back from Palmerston North. The champs quietly slipping back into Auckland after midnight. Not too late to reflect on an unlikely run of 5 straight wins, including the Auckland 1A final.
It's all part of the journey, and the whole season was really all an amazing experience, and to have this and the other cups that we got is just tops it off. But yeah, really thankful to God for this.
We just happened to be there when the journey started in the under-14s. That's Nico listening to Dad while nursing a sore shoulder.
They were only scoring off a couple of mistakes. We're doing all the good work. We're playing the game that rugby's meant to be played.
And 4 years on,
We're fine, but we need to work hard on defense. We're doing really well. Enjoy it. One more half. Gotta enjoy it. Play again.
The Iceman only too happy to watch from the sidelines now and let others make the comparisons.
We're very proud of them, but they play for each other and they play for something bigger than themselves, which is, I think, the key to their success.
Dad did let him decide whether or not to play the final on a Sunday, but even after getting back so late, there was no way of getting out of today's school exam.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports for this evening. We go for a break now. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
I'll look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, mostly fine in Daru with a top of 31 degrees, 31 degrees as well, and mostly cloudy for Port Moresby and Alatau. Some rain and showers expected in Kerma and Popondetta. To the Momasa region, rain and showers expected in Ley and Wau. Rain and thunderstorms, the order of the day for Wiriak, Madang and Vanimo with a top temperature of 31 degrees. To the New Guinea Islands region, mostly cloudy for Kavieng and Buka. Rain and showers expected in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. Rain and thunderstorms in Lorengau. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen can expect some rain drizzle over the next 24 hours. Some rain and showers expected in Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg. And all these major centers to expect morning fog clearing.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And before we go, a recap of our top stories this evening. Micro SMEs under the spotlight in latest APEC Meet. New golden copper mine wants PNG investors. And Tedi landowners want overdue benefits. And that's the news, sport and weather for today. Tune in at 8 p.m. for another look at the Morobe province on My Province, My Country, 43 years on. But for now, on behalf of the entire MTV News team from right around the country, pleasant viewing. Good night.